It's great to have Reid of Deadset Society, but also some solo material now. How's it going, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. It's going well.
So the latest single. Well, hold on. Before we get into the music, we should talk a little bit about scheduling this interview because it did revolve a little bit around the Leafs Habs series.
It did.
We kept pushing it off. And we were hoping, I'm sure, that we were going to be celebrating a Leafs win because we're recording this on Sunday night. And by the time it comes out, we're going to know their fate, but we don't right now. What do you think?
Oh, man.
Are you confident?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of nail biting. As a lifetime Leafs fan, it's it's especially awesome to watch them in the playoffs. So I'm excited. It's been a lot of ups and downs,
but there is that Game 7 kind of anxiety, Leaf haters have gotten a lot of mileage out of what happened in that disastrous Boston Game 7. There's a few ghosts or skeletons in the closet, so to say. So, man, I'm so nervous about it. That's all I am.
That game still gives me nightmares.
Oh, totally. Okay, so some new music that you've been doing, some solo material. The latest single is called A Special Place in Hell. That one absolutely rips. Tell me a little bit about how the solo material came about, who's playing on the songs, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I guess I've always just kind of gone off and done my own thing and written music, so it's never really been a departure from the normal for me or the usual for me. I've always just kind of I guess processed life through songwriting and collaborating with other songwriters and performing and all that. So for me, it's just an extension of what I've always done from before I was in my darkest days to when we were on tour and I'd kind of F off and do my own thing for a couple hours. And
writer's gonna write.
Yeah, exactly, man. And to keep sharpening that sword and as a producer now, kind of coming into my own, taking on new challenges as an artist. I feel like I can get have even more detail and control over the artistic output, although it comes with a lot of big shoes to fill. It's not easy to be objective and to be super critical, but also get it right.
Yeah. So
most of the time I don't.
Is that your upside of the pandemic? Is focusing on production?
Yeah, definitely. That's been a big one for sure. Just having the time to tinker and to obsess and to do things that maybe before there's that sort of make it snappy and get it out kind of thing, the pressure to perform. And I want to, every song I make, I want to, make as fan service. I don't want to just maybe that's just me as an artist. Some people don't like pandering to their audiences, but I had a song that I was fortunate enough to, see come to fruition from the skeleton riff to now having almost 10 million streams on Spotify. So I want to just keep doing that over and over again.
10 million. Is that what it's up to?
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. It's almost at 10 million, man. So
that's incredible.
I can just keep doing that.
You got into it's a great song and great songs will cut through, but not everyone does though. You know what I mean? It hit the sweet algorithms or something. Cause that's,
I guess so.
Those
man.
are big numbers. Those are
I know,
big numbers.
It's Porn Star Dancing by My Darkest Days is 70 million. So it's kind of in the, it's in the same ballpark as Ish. Yeah. That, which is a trip, man.
Yeah.
So
the double digit million club. There you go.
Yeah. Very, very, very strange and humbling. And certainly the funny part is as an artist, that's not a song I ever really, because the riff slaps, but then the rest of the song as an artist, I always kind of felt like I was, kicking the dirt and not really, being as straightforward as I should have been. And as an artist, I look back on previous material and for the most part, I hear the mistakes and it's difficult to to be able to separate the mistakes from, what it is. I guess over time, if it's a good enough song, you forgive the mistakes and it just kind of it either rocks or it doesn't rock.
Is perfectionism a thing for you then? Sounds like
Yeah,
it.
for sure. I have to just put stuff down and pretend it doesn't exist. Or
Walk
it, like,
away for
haunts
a
me
little while.
forever.
Just
Yeah.
walk away. Yeah, walk
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
Come back to it a little bit later.
It's
Because
hard.
it's got to be a thing if you're, especially if you're getting into production, is you're going to be experimenting. You're going to be trying out new things. So you could probably really take things too far and overthink it a lot.
Oh yeah, I've made ridiculous. Like, I mean, I've spent like, there's just like a days of my life I look back on in, like, when we were living in a house together after the 2012 touring, with a couple of friends of mine that ended up writing. Chris ended up co-writing with 3 Days Grace, and we wrote a bunch of songs together as well. And yeah, like the days we spent on productions that I look back, I'm like, man, I can't believe I comped a guitar for like 7 hours. Like, why would I just play it better? Like, but you know, it's all like a cumulative experience. You kind of snowball with mistakes and successes, and as long as you're able to kind of clock them. And you know, for me, I just try to always remember to just to find time every day to like be grateful and try to be constantly like, to find a moment of like humility, to just like remind yourself that it's just like, you know, to be grateful for where you're at, and just like to focus your energy to try to be positive and work harder.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that leads into, I mean, what you've been doing over the last, I mean, how long have you been a dad now?
Yeah, 3 years. 3 years.
3 years.
June 15th, man. Yeah.
Wow.
3 in a few weeks.
So has that changed anything in terms of your artistic output or vision? It doesn't sound like it.
I mean, I'm capable of love now. I didn't think I was capable of love, but like, I was like, oh wow, yeah, no, I'm definitely capable of love. It's incredible. It changed my life. He's the greatest thing. I love my family. So grateful. And they inspire me every day for sure. And also just like it's like this insurmountable weight is like impressed upon your shoulders when you become a parent, where you're like, it's on now. Like, there's like this human life that depends on you to not suck.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
terrifying. Yeah.
No pressure, sure. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it definitely, that's why, you know, they say it's a life-changing experience. And I think that's why.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely comes with an unprecedented amount of work and responsibility and patience. But I mean, for those who have kids know it, you know, there's nothing that matches that kind of feeling that you get from your kids, right? So
not even close. Yeah, everything else pales in comparison.
So are you gonna? Okay, is there gonna be a rainbows and butterflies song come out at some point? Because that's what that world is, right? And it's not exactly your artistic outlet.
Yeah, it's off brand.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. It's off brand.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that you know, my life has not been rainbows and stars and butterflies for the most part. So
well, your material,
of, like,
you're drawing
material
from your experience in your material and your songwriting, and I mean that's that's a common denominator with you know, some of the bands that you've been in, and the style of music as well. It tends to deal in the darker side more often than not. So it's interesting to see how something like becoming a dad impacts an artist like that.
He likes heavy metal.
Oh yeah, of course. Well,
he played the tambourine on a special place now. Actually, oh, yeah. he played it once, and I copy and pasted it over and over again.
There you go.
It's actually really super loud. Shout out to Chris Dawson, who he mixed it, but he also did a ton of production work with the song. So he also kind of co-produced it. He's a badass. I love Chris Dawson.
That's awesome. That's really cool that you were able to do that. Like, just to get like the one tambourine hit, and you know, there you go. Your son is on the track. He's
credited tambourinist.
Well, I mean, it seems to be doing well. You look good. I mean, I remember seeing you come through with Deadset, and I mean, the hair was different, but
yeah.
You looked maybe a little weathered from the road at that point, and you look healthy now. You look really good.
Thank you. Yeah. I've been working out a lot and trying to just like respect my voice a little better, and try to take being a vocalist more seriously. Before, I was always just kind of like punk rock informed a lot of my decision making, and that doesn't always pan out. So you know, I think I maybe pushed myself kind of too far when I did tour as much as we did, and the way we were performing was just kind of like every night we'd just go out and try to like obliterate the stage. And I think it was like the right approach, but
Each
yeah.
phase and bit and experience, though, is what makes up your experience, and that each one is individual. So those are all the things, like those are all the steps of being who you are as a person and who you're becoming as an artist too, because you're still a relatively young guy too. So there's a lot of road ahead. Yeah.
Some days.
Relatively. I mean, relatively.
Yeah. I think I got a lot of rock and roll left in me, man. Dude, AC/DC is still putting out awesome music.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah.
Man,
I mean, arguably just the same music,
exactly.
but it's like you like it.
Definitely argue.
Yeah.
No argument here.
So, okay. So who are you playing all the instruments if you're doing the production? Is this 100% you?
Chris Miller is an incredible songwriter I've been working with a lot, and it's definitely a collaboration with him. So there's a lot of Chris Miller in there. I played all the guitars. I programmed a lot of the synths. I did the bass and sang, I think, all the vocals. There's no Chris in that song. There's a couple songs we're working on together where I've kind of just like, he had some vocal parts and like it just kind of blended well together. So a little of that, and I am looking to kind of hopefully feature with some folks coming up in the later on in the year. But A Special Place in Hell, other than the tambourine and I think that's it. I think I played everything. Chris Dawson is an awesome drummer. He's also a producer and mixing engineer. He worked on Any Given Sin. Shout out to them. Saul, King of Misery, awesome song, awesome band. So a lot of and tons of other cool artists that I'm a big fan of. So I was very fortunate to get him involved and on the track, and he did a bunch of the drums. We had a different drum line, and he kind of took it and was just like, "Do you mind if I?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he helped us out and definitely co-produced that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I try to like Matt Walst. One of his real fundamental tenets as a musician was to like always try to be in a room with people who are that you respect and look up to as a musician, because you're able to learn from people that way. And that's always something that I was able to be in a position where I was constantly humbled, because the people I was rolling with were like, way better than me. So I was constantly getting, reminded that I sucked. And I think that made me want to be better all the time.
Well, okay. So you've worked with some musicians that have obviously like Matt played in My Darkest Days, went on to 3 Days Grace, who are just like massive. They dethroned Van Halen for the most number ones in US rock charts. That's insane, Wow. So wait, do you still keep in touch with those guys? Are you still
Yeah, I was talking to Matt today. I talk to Dougie on Instagram sometimes, but not that much. But I talked to Langford from Deadset probably the most. I hope we can release some new Deadset Society music sooner than later, and I hope we will. I think big fan of that record and just the way it sounds. I still, there's not a lot of songs I've written over the years that I can kind of throw on and feel like this is cool. And there's always parts where I listen to it as it passes by, I wish I could change it, but I think that record, like, still super stoked about it. So
yeah, and that one really, it's interesting because that seemed to really get some momentum. You guys were on Sirius XM. You were getting played down in the US, which is so important for Canadian rock bands, and then so it kind of got put on shelf as you became a dad, and now so there's some solo material. Is that going to come together as an EP? Are you doing a record, or are you just like, this is your outlet for now? And then what's the status of Deadset?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Who knows? I just play it by ear. I'm gonna do my best as an artist to just like keep doing my thing. I want to play some shows. I'd love to keep dropping singles, and once I get I think I could probably play a set now and just throw in some Deadset songs and some My Darkest Days.
You've written lots of music, so
what I mean? Like, just slap a band on it and send it. Just fly in and just like get some Craigslist guys and I don't know.
Well,
run track and just get some homeless people to dance. Make everybody's night.
There you go.
That's
They'd
punk rock,
appreciate the
man.
work, if nothing else, right?
That's right.
Yeah, because I mean, early on in the podcast, one of the first bands that I had on were your other bandmates who are known as a three-piece, as Tense Machine too. So and that was the joke too, is they had 3 songs. I'm like, so you guys are playing shows, what do? You playing some Deadset songs? And Mike's like, oh, we just play the 3 songs over and over. And
Yeah.
but they had, of course, had the whole record was done by the time they started putting anything out.
Yeah, true. Well, hopefully I'll by Q3, hopefully Q3, Q4, we'll have something live.
Yeah.
Fun. And certainly more music by then. I'm looking to I'd like to put out a cover. I've always like been sort of hesitant to, because it's just like all of the songs I'd want to cover, I'm kind of like afraid to try, because I think the original versions are so good that I'd feel kind of like, bummed when I make some mediocre like amateur version.
Well, it's I mean, certain songs are I think if you're going to take it on, you're taking on depending on what song it is. Like the I had the Standstills on, and they'd done a No More Mr. Nice Guy cover.
Yeah.
And kind of made it their own thing too. I think you just got to take your run at it. If it's a song you love, it's going to come through.
Yeah. That's really well. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Is there any ones that you're thinking about in particular, or you probably don't want to say?
Man, I'm a huge Misfits fan. I'm terrible with surprises. I don't know. I'd love to do Dig Up Her Bones is such a cool Misfits song, and it's such a terrible recording, and which is punk rock, so it's cool. But like,
that's really the thing with the early Misfits, the Danzig Misfits stuff, is the songs are great, but the recordings are so awful.
Yeah, terrible. There's no low end at all. It just sounds like, but that's okay. I mean, it is what it is, right? They didn't really have like the metrics that we do now, and the measuring sticks, and like,
oh, of course,
whatever, for sure. But needless to say, still sounds awesome, and it is, a great song. I think it'd be a really cool way to kick something out, in the meantime. Although I do have a bunch of stuff that I'm kind of like really close with, but again, I don't know. I just maybe kicked the dirt too long.
Yeah, that would also kind of be a tough thing though, because doing a cover song is sometimes what gets attention onto a band, and it's what allows people to dig deeper in some of their other, and look for some of their other music, right? So it can be a really key decision for some artists is what's the song that you're going to take and put your spin on.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age of the internets, I mean, like, why not? Just like, I'm just going to try and put out as much content as I possibly can, and I have like this great setup here, so I mean, I might as well. I remember like when I was a kid, like, and maybe if you can recall, like Audacity and some of those, like the beginnings of recording on like a computer for the first time.
Sure, yeah.
And just how archaic that was compared to now, and like what we're capable of, and like what we have.
It's definitely come a long way. Like the whole idea that, Billie Eilish made that, record on her laptop in her room, and where that went, I think that is just the most incredible example of, what you have in the palm of your hands these days, and how powerful that can be compared to, years gone by where it had to be studio time. You needed session musicians. You had to get all these moving pieces together to create your music. Whereas like one of the biggest records ever came from a girl in her bedroom with a microphone and a laptop, which is,
yeah, man, it's the liberation of art.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful. I think it's beautiful for sure. I mean, it's like allowing everyone to have a paintbrush and a canvas. It's it definitely equals the playing field. So, and that's great. If you it's some people, the haters, death by amateur or whatever, or the argument that it like diminishes the form or the platform, but like, whatever, man.
You know what I think is that if you can use the technology to make something that sounds cool in the studio, great. And if you can also then translate that onto a stage, then it doesn't matter. If you can translate, what people say might be, cheating or all of this stuff, that technology has allowed people to do things that maybe they couldn't do before. But if they can translate that into a live show that works, to me, that legitimizes everything. You know,
I've seen bands totally not do that correctly.
Right?
I watched a band train wreck so hard I like almost threw up in my mouth and was like,
it's like watching a comedian bomb. It's like like as someone in the audience, you can feel the horror like in your chest.
There's a lot. I feel like there's almost like there's so much more courage in that, at least in a comedian bombing. There's not like I've like there's one band that we were briefly doing a run of shows with. I won't name names because I would never do that. But there was a one band that they know who they are. They should feel ashamed, but I'm not going to call them out. But like anyway, they were playing and they. I guess the laptop power kicked out and just like, and they didn't realize it and the battery died, but so the tracks ran out, but like they were completely tracked. They were just four like middle-aged bros just dancing with guitars and drums.
Oh no.
It was not good.
Oh no.
They needed to take a long, sullen look at their lives. I think maybe that moment was the,
that hurts. That's like the, do you remember that Ashley Simpson disaster on SNL?
Exactly, dude. It was that. Yeah.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. I mean, I start to feel bad just even thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like that's there's no worse feeling, I think, or more feeling of being alone than being on stage and that happening to you. I think that's just a nightmare.
Can I curse on your show?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I mean, fuck that, man. I'd never fucking do that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, no, you suck. Fucking learn how to play guitar and sing, or why the fuck would anyone pay $5 to see you?
Yeah. You know? I mean, I think, you know what though? In what we're coming up to, people have been deprived of all that. I would spend $20 to see a crappy band.
I mean, now it's different. I would
in a shitty venue.
This is a pre 2020.
Yeah.
Now
Now our standards are so low because we've been deprived for so long. It's gonna be like
I'd pay $5 to watch the live stream of that.
There you go. There's been plenty of live streams though. Have you done anything on the live stream front?
A few.
Yeah.
I did a few. Mostly I'm on Patreon a lot, so I post like intermittently, just like leak my old content and like post random live streams on that. I was when I first dropped Monster, the first single I put out last year. I was live streaming on basically just every platform, like 24/7. I was just like live streamed my entire life and just like constantly just randomly played and commented and interacted with everyone I could. And I did that for a long time, but my artistic output was not enough. So I had to kind of find a better balance.
Yeah. Cause I think in the early going, it was like, well, here we are. People were just grabbing the guitars and hit and go live like constantly.
Sure. Yeah.
And then some of the things became more refined over time. And, you saw some really cool things that people were doing on Twitch and trying to experiment and, take it different places, which to me is that's where it starts to get interesting is when people are like, okay, this is what we've got now. What else can we do? How far can we push this medium? But it was overwhelming in the amount. If you're a music fan and you go on, like your notifications are through the roof. It's like Instagram, so-and-so is going live, bing, 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 going live. It's like, oh, cool. People are reacting to my content. It's like, no, it's just the notifications from everybody that you follow going live.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it's hard to, I can't imagine what it would be like if you were coming up in this kind of environment as an artist. I'm so thankful that, to look back on the success My Darkest Days has had, and certainly the success that My Darkest Days the further success My Darkest Days has had since Matt joined 3 Days Grace, and the massive amount of people who like My Darkest Days has like 1 million people every month who listen to it on Spotify
because they have now done okay. So what's Matt's history? And boom, there it is.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I think the algorithm helps us too because of that. So it's quite a trip.
Yeah.
So like to see that and obviously to lean in on that, I'm so grateful to have that. Without that, I don't know, what I do. It's crazy.
You have I see you're pretty active on social media. You definitely have an engaged and active fan base as well, which is really the game these days.
totally. Yeah, I mean, I'm super thankful for all my fans, and there's a lot of people that I remember meeting back in 2010 that have stuck with with each of the bands I've played in, and had my back for a real long time, and people even who I've met like last week on Twitter that I've discovered the music. I'm very very grateful, but especially so for the people who have driven super far to see a band I played in, or
saying the words back to you on stage.
Exactly. Yeah,
that to me, that's got to be one of the most, as someone who wrote those words, that's got to be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a few moments that definitely happened to me where we were playing, like outdoor festivals, like standing on the bleachers or whatever, like singing in a crowd of people. And you're just like, and I've always been a big fan of radio for that, because we'd always notice that anywhere we'd get like local support at the station, or anywhere we'd get an ad, and we'd be doing well, the crowds would be singing along, and it would be this like crazy hype. You know,
it still does make a difference.
Absolutely.
I heard that from Leon from the Lazies. He told me about a couple markets and that thing, and he's like, I won't say what city he was talking about, but he's like that's it. The radio station did nothing. They don't play us. The show sucked. He's like, we're never going there again. He's like, if the radio station isn't on it, he's like, I'm not interested.
I mean, we found kind of before we had any support from any radio, or before we had test drive on Sirius XM Octane, although they were on it pretty quick thanks to Matt sending an email to Kayla Riley.
Is that one of the is in that world, is Octane like is that the biggest check mark to go after?
Tastemaker.
Yeah.
They they just have a lot of listeners, I think, that also kind of people who are heavy metal fans in the States have this sort of like one, it's like the new MTV, you know what I mean?
It's a big outlet for that. Yeah,
for sure.
Whereas
they have their
there's
crew.
not a lot for, big coverage, a big platform like something like satellite radio. It's a global platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because that sound is more prominent on radio in the U.S. than it is here in Canada as well.
Definitely.
Which I think some people don't really realize the difference in how that sound, the heavier side of rock, thrives in the U.S. and
oh my god, yeah, and
struggles in Canada.
Yeah, that's sort of like something I discovered early in my career, and it hasn't changed at all. It's like,
it's right,
completely the same, which is kind of I've made peace with it. It's fine. I like everything. There's I like great music, and I like bad music. I like it all. If it's got a beat, I'm in. I'm such a sucker. I don't care. I'm not a hater at all. I just, anytime there's music playing, I enjoy it.
Except for that one band that died on stage with you guys.
Well, I probably like their music, but like
it just didn't work that. Yeah.
The reason why that upsets me so much is because I've just done such a terrible job so many times live, where I've just, I've practiced and I've tried my best. And then even so, when something happens where I'm just tired, or I haven't slept in 2 days, we've been driving or whatever, and I just ended up sucking. And I've just felt so guilty and terrible about it, that when I see bands that completely fake it, I'm just like, hey, fuck you, man. Like, it's not fair. Like,
I get that. But I totally get that. Yeah.
It's not the same thing, And like sometimes people buy it and you're just like, oh man. But whatever. At the same time, like if you're doing a 88 person dance routine with 500 moving lights and you have to do it in 370 days straight, I don't know. That's not my experience.
You've got to hate, if you're the band doing that or the act doing that, you've got to hate everything about it by day 367 or something.
Yeah, because like I don't find that exciting personally as an artist or as an audience member. I mean, maybe it's kind of cool, flashy at this point. Now, then again,
we'll take it all. We'll take
$5,000 to see it.
Yeah, right. I mean, congrats on the stuff that you've done as a solo. Like the biggest discovery here is the number that you had said on Special Place in Hell. So congrats on that. That's massive. Should we be looking forward to some more stuff? Just singles here and there? Is that what the solo thing is? Or are you going to put them on to a collection at some point? What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that kind of like speaks to the where the music industry is at right now. I don't I have a lot of love for the record, but I just don't think people listen to music like that anymore.
The hardcore do, but on the whole, you're right. It's getting on the playlists on Spotify or whatever it might be. It's hitting those algorithms. It's
But really, like did people always kind of had a part of their day where they were like, all right, I'm just gonna throw on my favorite rock station, and to this day, right? Like, or my favorite, in this case, in this day and age, it's like my favorite playlist, or make their own or whatever. And there's a lot more options now, but I think that even back to like the 50s and 60s, there was always kind of like the variety show thing was always a thing. And so I want to mess with that format in terms of releasing music right now. I think it's, if it comes together as a body of work, cool. And maybe one day when I'm out in a caravan, living in Motel 6s, slapping records,
living that sweet life
I'll
again.
print some, you know what I mean? I'll print some with the mustard stains on my shirt and like 7 guitars in the trunk. Driving to Memphis or something, I'll print off some CDs and sell them on the side of the stage or whatever. But I don't know.
In the meantime, get them up digitally, because that's where the world lives these days. Reid, it's so good to catch up with you, man. It was great to see you again and to chat. Congrats on being a dad in the new music, and I hope that I see you with Deadset or out on your own or whatever it is at some point, because it seems like we're going to get back to that soon. We're on the cusp.
I think so.
All right, dude. Thanks so much. Thanks for doing the podcast.